chapter for managing storage. So in this chapter then we will see how you have to manage the storage, okay? Storage functionality that you will use for the Oracle VM, the way that the product is using this kind of functionality by using the Storage Connect framework, how you have to create and prepare this external storage to use it with the product, okay, Oracle VM. Several tasks that they have to be executed, okay, in order to manipulate this kind of storage functions. And then we will go to the discovery of different file servers and SAN servers that they will provide us storage for our operations. We will see what is the refresh operation, how we can create NFS access and SAN group access for the storage configurations, okay? How we have to create and clone physical disks, and what are the extra functionalities that you will have whenever you want to use the vendor specific plugins that they are delivering you more configurations. So again, the first chapters, they will give you just an introduction to the storage configurations, and then we will have let's say more details about this kind of configurations with some labs that we have to run during this course. So storage concepts. Whenever you have to use let's say a virtualization platform, storage is a very essential part of these configurations, okay? Because anyway, the product needs specific storage to be run, and we will see that whenever you are creating pools, storage has to be created. Then the virtual machines that you have to create, they need to be located somewhere, okay? And for these purposes, you have to create, let's say, adequate locations where storage will be used to provide the necessary infrastructure. Oracle VM can work with several types of storage as, let's say, local storage, which is a very particular configuration where to every and each Oracle VM server local disks, they will be presented to create repositories, network attached devices that they will presenting, let's say, files through the NFS implementation, okay? Block devices, either SCSI, either fiber channel, okay? And all these configurations, they will be manipulated, okay? They will be seen through, let's say, the manager and the guided processes that they will let you to use this kind of configurations. So, storage types, local storage. Whenever you're installing the product into the Oracle VM server's physical host, if these physical hosts, they have additional disk space, okay? So this disk space can be used as, let's say, space where you can locate or you can create repositories by using the OCFS2 file system. NFS storage. NFS storage, it is just used whenever you have, let's say, file servers that they are presenting shares over the network, okay? So you will be able, by giving correct access rights, to mount these shares, okay, and use them as, let's say, placeholders for your repositories. And in these cases, the repositories, they can be shared among several pools. This is very important because for the next part, whenever we have to work with block devices, we will see that the repositories that they will be created on this kind of block devices, they cannot really share among several pools. So you have the choice, according to your implementations, to use a SCSI or a fiber channel configuration, okay? We will actually see how this can be implemented in the labs, and then in these cases, you can use, let's say, the underlying infrastructure in order just to create, let's say, repositories or map your virtual machines within this kind of storage configurations. So in this slide, we have actually a server pool which is consisting of several servers. So this server pool is configured to use, let's say, several repositories. Okay, so in the repositories, we are storing, as you can see here, ISO files, virtual disks, templates, assemblies, appliances, and VM configuration files. There is a dedicated server pool file system which is used to hold the server pool configuration, and then physical disks that they are coming through a storage array that they can be used actually to map, let's say, disks for your virtual disks that you will use into your virtualization projects. So in next slide we have let's say 3 different pools. As you can see here, the server pool 1 and the server pool 2, they are using 2 different, no, maybe 3 different repositories, an NFS, let's say, storage server, a ZFS appliance, and a SCSI server, okay, into which they can create their, let's say, disks. And then the server pool 1 is having one server which can use also a local disk in order to create his own repositories. The server pool 3, through a fiber channel, can see, let's say, a SAN storage array to which he can, let's say, store his artifacts, and as well he can use, let's say, the NFS server or a ZFS appliance, okay, to deploy or create some additional virtual machines. Why not? So whenever you are having this kind of storage, there is actually the Storage Connect framework, which is implementing the ways to get connected to your backend storage. So the Storage Connect framework can be used either by using generic plugins or vendor delivered plugins. The scenarios in these configurations can differ. If you are using, let's say, generic plugins, in these cases, somebody has already to prepare for you the storage infrastructure, so you simply have to discover it. And if you are using, let's say, vendor implemented plugins, then you have more possibilities to control, let's say, the environment which is delivered to you. Okay, in order to use this kind of vendor plugins, then the vendor has to prepare libraries that they have to be installed to every and each Oracle VS server in order to perform this kind of operations. So the generic plugins. What is a generic plugin? The generic plugin, it is offering a kind of limited standard storage operations, okay, on every kind of storage hardware, okay. The vendor plugin, it will offer much larger set of capabilities, but this is really always associated to specific implementation done by the vendors, okay. So if you have a vendor plugin, you are able to perform more operations, okay. Now the next phase, it is how you have to prepare actually the external storage. So according to your configuration, you might need to create additional networks for access to your storage. It's very important that the storage that it is exposed by any kind of server should be writable, okay? And otherwise, you will not be able to create any kind of artifacts on that, okay? And then you have to be able to test your configuration to be sure that the multipath, it is implemented in a very correct way. In any case, whenever you have to create, let's say, cluster pools, then you have to have at least 12 gigabytes of file system that it will be used as a server pool file system. Preparing external storage fiber channel multipathing. So the Oracle VM in its implementation, it is enabling, it is supporting multipath I/O for the fiber channel storage, but you have to implement this according to your vendor's implementation. So the steps are really particular. Okay, the only thing that Oracle says that the kernel by itself, it is supporting this kind of functionality, but it is vendor specific, and you have to always to test this configuration in order to be sure that your setup is correct. So we have here a quiz. The Oracle VM Manager and all Oracle VM servers in a server pool must be able to access the storage that is used for server pool file systems, repositories, and optionally the physical disk for the virtual machines. We have actually two choices. Is it true or is it false? So let's see. The Oracle VM Manager and all Oracle VM servers in a server pool must be able to access the storage that is to be used for the server pool file systems or other artifacts. Actually, in this configuration, it's only the Oracle VM servers that they have to access this kind of storage. The Oracle VM Manager doesn't need to access the storage, so the correct answer is B. On the next slide now, as you can see here, we see already the workflow that we have already executed in order to set up the networks. So we are seeing now the the storage configuration path, where, as you can see here, whether you are working with NFS or block storage devices, you have to discover them, okay? And in this case, when the storage is discovered, then you can start to manage this kind of services. The configuration steps, whenever you have to do this kind of manipulation for the storage, okay, they are nearly, let's say, similar. If you are working with a file server or a block device, there is always a guided path that you can do it through the Oracle Manager or the command line, okay? And we will share also some additional details about the internal utilization of this storage by the different components of our systems. So, the Oracle VM Manager, it will see this kind of storage as, let's say, specific providers for file servers or SAN servers. So in these cases, okay, you have to choose according to your, let's say, underlying storage infrastructure, either NFS servers that they will host your repositories, or block devices servers that they will be used only to dedicated pools, and they will not be shareable among other configurations. Local storage is a very particular configuration where a disk, it is, or several disks that are belonging to one hardware element to which you are running the virtualization, they will present it as additional repositories. And these repositories, they will stay local for this OVS server. So how you have to configure the file servers? Again, you have to perform a kind of discovery. We will see the details on the next slides. And then there is just a way to tell to your OVS systems how this server has to be seen, as by presenting uniform or non-uniform export. If a file server is presenting, let's say, the same exports to all the pools of your systems, then it is working on the uniform, okay? And if the file server is exporting different exports to different server pools, then it's non-uniform, okay? We will see that this uniform or non-uniform implies that you have to perform some additional configuration steps, okay? And the details, we will have them just after here in these slides. So in this case, is the only thing that you have to provide whenever you are working with the NFS servers is just to choose the storage plugin. In our case, it will be Oracle generic network file systems. You have to provide a name for this file server. An access host, it is just the host which is offering this kind of service. If it's uniform, you have just to check it. You have just to add also an additional description about this feature, and then you have to add admin servers, okay? So the admin servers, they will be used in case that you are using a network file system that it will be targeted to a cluster server pool. So if you are working in a specific configuration where these systems, they will not be presented to non-cluster pools, then you are not really needing, let's say, admin servers. So you will see that you might need to add also some refresh servers. So the refresh server, it will be used to access, let's say, servers, access actually the exports, okay? And you have to specify actually the refresh servers because in this case you will see actually how is the underlying, let's say, file system, okay? If the server is, if the server has non-uniform exports, okay, then you have to include at least one Oracle VM server for each server pool to be a refresh server. Now, if you have uniform exports, you might skip this kind of step, okay, and you can work seamlessly without any issues. So in these cases, we have already seen that we have given one server. Then we see actually shares that servers that they are proposing different kind of configurations. So if one of these servers has created, let's say, a repository, okay, then we will see actually these repositories and we can use it immediately into these configurations. Now, if you are using non-uniform exports, okay, then after the previous step, you might see some additional warnings by telling you that you have to proceed to some additional configurations. And in this case, you have to create NFS access groups to be sure that every file system in every particular file server can be refreshed, okay, by an adequate or an appropriate Oracle VM server. So the next thing is the management of the file servers. So once that you have discovered a file server, so you can modify or refresh each configuration. You can change the name, the description, the access hosts. You can add or remove admin and refresh servers. You can refresh actually the file server, or you can change the NFS or remove the NFS access groups. You can also refresh the file system, okay, to which is related to one of these servers which is exporting this kind of fact. Anyway, at any time that you are making any kind of modification, you will see that events, they will be triggered, and you will be able to see these events from the manager, okay. How you have to configure now the block devices. Block devices, they can be seen as SAN servers, okay, and you will, let's say, configure this according to different scenarios. So this kind of discovery, it's nearly similar as discovery that we have seen before with the file systems, but if you have storage elements that they are directly, let's say, attached or managed with specific devices, then you will see that storage elements, they will be discovered and even reported to your system before to run a proper discovery, and then you have to run some additional steps, okay, in order to configure these unmanaged storage as storage that it will be seen as configured. So in this slide, what we have here, we are in the storage tab. In the storage tab, if you click on the left side, you will see that there is one unmanaged fiber channel storage. Okay. In this case, this configuration has been automatically discovered by Oracle VM servers. Okay. And then we will see how you have to manage a little bit better this configuration. Then for the SCSI server, you see that there is one managed or named storage. So this storage is accessible, okay, through the Oracle VM server, but in this case you must configure actually the storage in order to discover properly the storage elements. So here we have exactly, let's say, the workflow either for SCSI or fiber channel. So as you can see here, the difference between SCSI and fiber channel. For the SCSI configurations, an unmanaged configuration after discovery, it will be seen as configured, okay? So unmanaged is just in temporary state, and this configuration will be true for a generic plugin or a vendor-specific plugin, okay? For a fiber channel then, as you will see here, the configuration, it will stay for the generic plugin in an unmanaged state, but for the vendor specific, okay, it will go to the configured. How you have to discover the SAN servers. So we have exactly the discovery panel, okay. We will run also the labs to see exactly how this is working. You have just to give a name of the server which is exporting this kind of information on description, and then you have to choose the storage type. In our case, it's the SCSI server. The plugin, it is the generic, because we are not using so far actually more specialized vendor plugins. And then there is additional information, as you can see here, okay, which will be related to let's say the specifications or the implementations that you have, either because you are using generic configurations, vendor specific, or fiber channel. So all these elements here that you see here, they are really particular to the implementation that you will use, and you have to define additional steps in order to make these plugins to work properly. So you have just simply to follow this kind of additional rules. Now, access groups. What are the access groups? So whenever you are working with storage, you have to sometimes enable a more strict access to the physical disks, and in this case you have to create what we are calling access groups. So it's up to you, according to your business, to create this kind of configuration. So when you are creating this kind of access groups for a non-generic storage array, you have to include what we are calling the storage initiators, that they are allowed to access the storage elements that they are into your array, okay? Otherwise, for generic SCSI storage, you need only a single access group, okay? And there are no access groups for unmanaged fiber channel storage, okay? So sometimes after this kind of discovery process, you can proceed or modify the access groups, okay? Maybe to reflect some changes that they have been done, and you will go to put the correct settings for your storage. Discovering physical disks. Okay, so existing physical disks that they are already part of your storage elements presented by your storage array are nearly discovered or discovered during the SAN server discovery process. So for the managed SAN servers, okay, you can also create physical disks by one functionality which is called create physical disk function. And of course, if you make any kind of additional configurations to the backend storage system, you have just to trigger a refresh operation, which will bring you into your systems the modifications that they have been done into the backend storage array. Okay. Now, once that you have done the discovery, you can make some additional changes to your storage. Okay. You can edit the name of the SAN server. You can edit the access information, add, remove admin servers, edit the access groups, refresh these SAN servers whenever you are making changes to the storage configuration, create the physical disks, delete the SAN server, and for each physical disk, you can edit the physical disk, refresh the physical disk, display the Oracle VM servers that are using these physical disks, delete, okay, or clone this kind of storage, let's say, places. Cloning terminology. So whenever you're working with Oracle VM, you have, let's say, to treat your disks by making copies in a certain way. So cloning, it is just the process where you can copy a physical disk to another physical disk, or maybe to a virtual disk in a repository, or from a virtual disk to another virtual disk. Okay, so in these cases you can use the sparse or non-sparse copy. So a sparse file is a disk which is having, let's say, blocks without blocks that are not really valid data, so it can be seen as holes. Okay. So when you are using a sparse copy, then these holes, they are not allocated except when you start to write to this file. Okay. When you are using a non-sparse copy, all blocks are written. Okay. Even the blocks that are really empty. And then we have another term which is called thin cloning. Okay. Thin cloning. In this case, you are writing only the data that are written into the disks. Okay, so we are not really copying the whole part of the disk, but only the part of the disk that is really written. So from this point on, we can have, let's say, different kind of examples by using this kind of cloning technology. So we can start to clone a physical disk to a repository. So this is the part number one. So if you clone a physical disk to a repository, then you will create, let's say, a virtual disk. Then you can clone a disk to another physical disk or to a new disk. So in these cases, you can either use the generic storage Connect framework, or let's say the vendor plugin, and then you have another possibility where let's say you can copy your disk to another let's say a disk which is staying into your storage array. For the next part, okay, we will see just an implementation without having any labs, real labs, because we are missing a ZFS storage appliance. We will see actually what are the necessary steps to perform whenever you want to use this kind of vendor managed plugins, okay, where we will use, let's say, a library. This is implementing the vendor plugins to the OVS servers. So we have to install this library to these OVS servers, and then we will see what are the necessary steps that you have to perform to the ZFS appliance in order to run the whole configuration. Okay, so this is just a rather theoretical presentation. So if we wanted to work with the Oracle ZFS storage appliance, okay, by using the Oracle Storage Connect framework and the specific libraries, then you have to download from the Oracle side, OTN, the OSC Oracle S7 key plugin, which is actually a library. And this library has to be installed to every and each Oracle VM server, which has to work with a backend storage ZFS appliance. Okay, so you have to go to install to every single server this kind of plugin, and then through a guided discovery that it will be launched from the Oracle VM Manager, you will discover the ZFS appliance, and then you can start to create physical disks. So if you have to work like that, you have to install the Oracle ZFS Storage Appliance plugin on every Oracle VM server, okay? And the Oracle, and then on the Oracle ZFS Appliance, you have to create, okay, for configuration purposes, a local user and accessory rights as a role for the Oracle VM, okay? Because it's the Oracle VM, somehow the system that it will use the appliance. Then you have to configure SCSI targets and target groups, okay? Then you have to create storage elements in the Oracle's ZFS storage appliance for repositories, server pools, file systems, and raw disks if you want to use this kind of functionality. Okay, from the Oracle VM Manager, you have to discover then the ZFS storage appliance, okay? By using a discovery path, you have to create access groups and create physical disks if you need so. Usually, in any case, you have to download actually these RPM files, okay, from the vendor side. In our case, it's ZFS, so you have to get these RPMs from the Oracle side. Then you have to install them to every single server, okay, as a root. And once that you have done that, then we suppose that as a ZFS administrator, you're going to the ZFS appliance, and you have to manipulate the storage in order to present it after to your servers. So in this case, you have created already a user, you have created associated configurations in order to have the correct access rights, and then you have to create SCSI targets and SCSI groups that they will be exposed by the ZFS appliance through your discovery process. So in this case, because we are using now a vendor storage plugin that is already installed, you will see that there is a new entry which is called storage plugin, ZFS, SAN ZFS storage appliance. And then you have to provide the target group and the targets that you have already created, okay? An admin host with information that giving the admin capabilities of this appliance, access host, which is having, let's say, access capabilities to the ZFS appliance. And then you have to present some admin servers. And then you have to create, let's say, access groups with the storage initiators in order to be able to use your physical disks that are coming from your ZFS appliance. So once that this is configured, okay, you will find also the ZFS appliance, the ZFS access groups into your tabs, and you can create them from here additional disks, okay, as you were, let's say, an administrator of the ZFS appliance. So these are simply configurations that you have to run from the, let's say, panel or from the command line, and you have to present these physical disks to access groups, okay, in order to be able to manipulate them through the Oracle VM servers, okay? Now, if you want to clone these disks, okay, by any kind of mean, you have just to click on the associated image, and then you the storage, the clone target, okay, it is the storage array, okay, and the clone type, in this case, it is thin cloning, okay? So we have here just the last part, okay, which is just some quiz. So identify the information items that are required. We're discovering a SCSI storage array that uses the Oracle generic SCSI plugin, access host, admin host, storage plugin name, plugin private data. So the necessary informations are the access host and the storage plugin name for the SCSI storage. Okay. As a summary, we have seen what is the storage, how the storage is used inside Oracle. Okay, so what is the storage connect framework, and then how you have discovered by using different techniques for NFS or block devices. In the practice 4, we will see exactly how you have to proceed, and the last part, install the Oracle ZFS storage appliance. Is just a simple demo because we don't have a real ZFS appliance, so you will see only the installation on the ZFS servers. End of the part 4. Practices for lesson 4. Just a generic overview. In these practices, we will create and manage, the necessary steps for the storage. We have to create several pools, repositories, and provide physical disks to virtual machines. So for the practice 4-1, we have to verify that there is an NFS storage in our lab machine. Okay, so in this case, again, I will take my putty to the server. So I'm logged as root. Okay, export FS. So you can find actually that there we will deal with this kind of exports, NFS repos. Okay. So as you can see here, actually you can access these shares from the networks 192.68.1.0 and 192.0.2.0. Okay. cat/etc exports. So we will be concerned, okay, by this configuration, okay, that it has been created, okay. We can see actually that this repository, it's already associated with one virtual image, NFS repos.emg, okay. And then it's 21%, let's say, full. So there are artifacts that they have been created by the developer. So if we go back to our manager, okay, if you click to the storage, let's go to servers, okay, and then we have to, let's say, create or discover file server, discover file server, okay. We will use the generic plugin. The name of this server is NFS server, okay. Access host 192.0.2.1, okay. Uniform exports, because we don't have other let's say pools or configurations that they have to be exported to other pools. So we have seen all this configuration already in the course, so we have to add both of the servers as admin servers. Click next, and then the discovery process is launched, okay. So we have just to take this first choice. So there is a refresh which is launched, and then we have our server here, okay. Respective file servers. Okay, if you click again here, this part, so we will see that there is one repository associated with this server. And then if you go to the repositories, okay, and you click only to show my repositories, so we will see that with this discovery, a repository that it has been created already, okay, by a previous development, it has been retrieved, okay, and in this case, let's say, we will be able to work with something that it has been already created inside, okay. Now, if you click to every folder, you will see that actually the folders are empty, but what is really happening is that we have seen already that there is an occupation, so something is created, okay? So we have to refresh the NFS share, okay? So to refresh the NFS share, okay, to see exactly what is happening with this repository here, okay, have just to check the right repository, click here, launch a refresh file system, a little lock is created, okay. And you can launch this command if you want okay, you can create this configuration by using the CLI, okay. In our case, we have been just using the graphical interface, okay. It doesn't, we don't need really to pass the Oracle VM CLI, okay. It is given just for reference, okay. And then this is the end of the 4-2. Practice 4-3, verify the presence of SCSI targets and LANs on your lab machine. So for this practice, what we have to do is to verify the presence of SCSI targets and LANs on the base server on the lab machine, okay? So for this task, as you can see here, you have to get logged as root, okay? And you have to issue the command tgt-admin-show, which it is showing you actually different configurations that they have already been created into this server, okay? So there are several available targets and LANs that they have been already created, as you can see here. And this, they will be simply used to the next practices. This is the end of the practice. Practice 4-4, discover the SCSI generic storage array. So in this practice, we have to discover the storage array, which is delivered by our friend developer, okay? And then we have to perform, let's say, several other manipulations on that. So in order to prepare this kind of discovery, you should get logged into your user interface of the manager, as we have done previously. Then you have to click on the storage tab here, okay, just to access the main storage tab. We have already discovered one NFS system, okay. And then you have to expand the entry for the SAN servers, okay. There are two entries, unmanaged fiber channel and unmanaged SCSI storage array, okay. So if you click here, the unmanaged fiber channel, okay, and unmanaged SCSI storage array, you will see two more entries, default entries. Okay, and then on some LANs they might appear, okay, but what we have to do here, it is just a clean discovery, proper discovery of the systems. So in these cases, you have just to perform the discovery by clicking here, discover SAN server, okay. So you have to give a name, okay. Server, okay. So storage type, we will use actually the SCSI storage server, okay. Storage plugin, we are using always the generic plugin, okay, because we haven't installed some other more advanced plugins. It's just a configuration that our developer has created, so we don't have any specific vendor configuration, okay. There is only one choice. Next, then you have to create a new access host. So the access host will have the address of the base station. Okay, access port by default 3260. Okay, so we have entered these kind of formations. Okay, then next we have to add the admin servers. Next, and then you have to edit or remodel the default access groups here. You choose them, you edit them. Okay. Then you have to provide maybe a small description if you want to work more properly, okay. On the storage initiator tabs, okay, we will push actually the configurations of our OVS servers. Okay, one initiator per server, okay. So each OVM server will act, let's say, as a SCSI client, okay. You click OK, click again. Okay, so in this case, nearly we have finished our job. We have just to trigger this configuration. As you can see here, jobs, they have been launched already. So the log has been set up simply because we are performing this kind of discovery. Okay. And then you can, let's say, highlight SAN servers. And then you will get configurations that they have been discovered. So we have just to wait that the refresh operation has to be finished, okay. On the same time, if you want, you click to the physical disks, okay. It is, these are the disks that are coming from the Discover Storage array, okay. So these disks are nearly ready to get used. Okay, so at this point on, we can say that the system it's ready. Okay, as you can see here on the last line, a refresh operation has been executed. Okay, we have just to wait that this operation will finish. And then of course we see already the disks here. You can click here to get more details. Okay. Okay, so our system is ready. What is really important as well, it is that the status here is online. Okay. SCSI server with the access host. Okay, some abilities. Okay, we have been using the generic configuration by using the generic plugin. And at this point, this is the end of the practice 4-4. Practice 4-5. Explore the available operations on the physical disks. So we have already configured our SCSI server. Okay, one more time, which is really important. You have to perform this operation. You click on the SAN servers here, and you should see the server online. If you see something else, then please raise an SR for the labs. Okay, you need absolutely to have this server with the status online. Now, from this point on, we'll go to work with the physical disks that they have been configured. Okay, so this is a really particular operation, so we are emulating these disks. Okay, you can see them as physical disks, but actually these are virtual images that through an emulation they are presented as physical disks. Okay, and then if you take, let's say, one disk here or whatever, okay, you have the possibility by clicking to this little pencil, okay, to, for instance, change the name. Okay, so we will call this disk server pool file system, because we will use it later on to create, let's say, this server pool file system for a cluster that we need. Okay, so modify storage element. Okay, as you can see here, it takes some time, this job. It is successful, and then you have the name here. Okay, then you can use actually the Oracle VM CLI to do the same operation. So let's open again with a PuTTY, okay, a connection to the server. Here you are, okay. And then the associated action should be, let's say, first of all, list physical disk. So what you see here, the first disks 5, 6, 3, 4, 2, and server pool FS, they are coming from, let's say, the SCSI server, and the two additional disks, they are coming from disks that they have been attached to the OVS VR01 and OVS VR02. Okay. Now, to see exactly this kind of information, you can go back to the servers and VMs. You can choose whatever here, physical disks. So this is a local disk which is attached to one of these servers from the beginning, and then there are the other disks that they're available through, let's say, this kind of configuration. Same thing for the OVS VR2. It's having its own configuration plus some additional disks that they are coming from the SCSI configuration. Okay. Now you can, let's say, perform any kind of operations through the OVM CLI. Okay. So in this configuration, we need to rename, okay, one disk which is the EIET2, okay, and we will give a new name, okay, repository LAN, okay. Let's do it with a CLI. Notice that there is a modify storage element, and then the name has changed immediately according to the command that we have passed. Okay. So as you see, the CLI is very convenient. Okay. Then again, let's try to list our disks. As you notice now, we don't have anymore the IET number 2, but we have, let's say, a repository LAN. Okay. So all these kind of operations, so they can be, let's say, triggered, okay, from the CLI or even from the console. Okay. And then you might want to delete this kind of disks, okay. So if you choose one of these disks, okay, let's try to make a deletion. So you might not see the same signs, okay, because maybe there is an update into the graphical elements, okay. So you have here an X on the top of the disk. In the activity guide, you have a very big X, okay. So let's make a deletion, okay. So if you delete actually this disk, okay, you will see that the storage operation, okay, was successful. The disk number 6 disappeared, okay, from the view, okay. And now if you do a refreshment, so we have just to wait, you will see that one disk, okay, reappears. Now it has the number EIET1, okay. And the reason for that it is that we are using, let's say, a generic SCSI array, okay, and whenever you are doing this kind of operations, okay, these operations are not really reflected to the physical server. So in order to see this, to delete a disk, if you don't have a specific vendor plugin, you have first of all to delete this disk where it resides, okay, and then you have to launch the operation of the refreshment through the manager interface, so you will let's say get the correct information, okay. Deleting this from this manager from a generic storage array doesn't have any results, okay, unless temporary results, because the manager is not able to or the system is not able to delete the servers because we don't have specific plugins. Now let's clone a physical disk, okay. So to clone a physical disk, okay, let's take the disk which has disappeared and reappeared, okay, and in this case simply here, okay, we have to click on the cloning, okay. So we have to give a name for this disk. One, clone target physical disk, okay, target type, so we choose another disk, okay, sparse copy, okay, a new job has been launched, as you can see here, and we are not expecting that you perform this lab till then. It's just a simple, let's say, practice for the cloning, okay? So this is the end of the lab 4-5. Practice 4.6, install the Oracle ZFS Storage Appliance plugin. So in this practice, we have to install the vendor plugin for the Oracle ZFS Storage Appliance, but it is just for simple, let's say, demo purposes. We don't have a real ZFS appliance, okay? We will use just some steps that they will instruct you to install vendor's plugin to your OVS servers, okay? But on the same time, of course, you have to have a real, let's say, storage configuration by the vendor where your servers, they can use this kind of plugins, okay, in order to communicate much better and having better administration possibilities. So in these cases, there is an Oracle, there are plugins that they have been downloaded from the OTN site, and what we are asking from you to do it is just okay, to SFTP the plugins to each Oracle VM server. Okay, so you have to download them by your own means somewhere, and from there you have to upload them to every OVM server. You have to install them because these are RPM files, and once that these files are installed, then you have to launch what we are calling a discovery phase. Okay, so let's go and take again my SSH, which is here. Okay, here we are. Okay, so in this case we are going to the first server, SSH OVSVR01. Okay, SFTP OVM MZR OVM-MGR01. Okay, yes, Oracle. Okay, and then cd/stage ls. So it's not an obligation to have this kind of plugins to the manager. Okay, it is just let's say the way that these machines, these servers, they are configured, and then get the name of the plugin, which is an RPM file. Okay. So here you are. Quit the SFTP session. Okay. We are into the OVSVR01. Okay. So in this case, RPM QA grep. This is just a precaution to see if this plugin has been installed already. Okay, nothing is installed. Okay, ls. Okay, so we see that the plugin is there, and then RPM, the name of the plugin. Sorry, let's put it better. Final verification shows me that okay, the RPM is installed into this kernel. Okay, so we have to do the same operation on the other server, SSH OVSVR02. Okay, SFTP OVMMGR01. Yes, Oracle. Okay, cd stage ls get here you are, exit clear RPM. Okay, so the plugin has been installed on both servers. Okay, so actually we don't need to get logged anymore. Okay. Then we are going back to the manager. You make a discovery. So this operation is necessary to see if you have done any kind of modifications or have installed plugins or whatever. So both servers for the discovery, it is successful. Otherwise, you can, let's say for the OVSVR2, you can use the command line, but I have done it through the administration panel. Okay, it's very easy to write the commands and type them if you want. Okay, so now in this case, you have to go back to the storage. Okay, here, and you have to try to discover, okay, a SAN server. So what is now new into this panel, the modification? It is that if you have to choose, let's say, the SCSI server, and then you click here on the storage plugin, you will see a new entry which was not existing before. Okay, so the new entry, it is because we have updated our servers with these RPM files. Okay, and then we have other sections that they have been activated because this plugin, okay, needs, let's say, additional parameters as we have seen in the course. Okay, so we will not go further because we don't have any ZFS appliance associated with these things. Now, if for your labs you want to play these kind of things, remember that we have a virtual ZFS appliance, a VirtualBox appliance that you can download and you can use it for your practices or labs. This is the end of the 4.6.